These are the solutions for the Advanced Algebra Test 6 Quarter 1. And so let's take a look at this first problem here. And what it's asking us to do is to find out if this point here, determine whether 6, 5 is on the graph of the given line. And so all we're going to do is just take our x value and our y value, and we're going to substitute them into the equation. So 6 is going to go in place of the x, when 5 is going to go in place of the y. So what I'll end up doing is just rewriting the equation. This minus sign in front of x means the opposite of x. So it's the opposite of 6. So negative 6 plus 6 times by, and then 5. And we have to see if it equals 24 or not. And so when I do this work, I'm going to multiply first, 30, and then plus negative 6. And I'll see if it does equal 24. So it does, and I have an equality. And so an equality means that the point is on the line. So we would just say, yes, the point, and then you just name off what that point is. 6, 5 is on the graph given by, and then we'll just write the equation. So it was, in this case, it is negative x, or the opposite of x, and then plus 6y equals 24. So the next problem states that we are finding out if this is a solution. So they mean pretty much the same thing, whether it says it is a whether it's on the line or if it's a solution. We just take our x value and we put that in place of x. We take our y value and we put that in place of y, and we see if it equals. So it means the same exact thing, just different phrases to represent the same problem. So 5 times negative 1, and then minus 3 times by negative 6. So you just have to be careful on the signs here. So we multiply here, we get negative. And this one, we think of this as a negative 3. Whenever I see minus 3, I think of plus negative, so it makes a negative 3. And it ends up being 18. And so when we combine these two, they do not add to make, or subtract in this case to make 14, they make 13. So since 13 does not equal 14, we say no, the point, and then we'll go ahead and name that off. It was negative 1, negative 6 is not a solution of, and then we can go ahead and read off what that equation was. 5x minus 3y equals 14. So the next one ends up asking us about xy intercepts. So let's take a look at it. So it just asks us to find the xy intercept. So when we're trying to find the intercepts, we're going to set each value, each variable equal to 0. So we're going to start with the, let's do the x-intercept first. And so again, I'm going to set y equal to 0, because if I'm looking at an x-intercept, an x-intercept is on the x-axis, y is 0. And so when I do that, I'm just left with 1/2 x equals 4. So I've got just one step of multiplying by the reciprocal, and do the same thing on the other side to cancel out the 2's there, so x is 8. So the x-intercept is 8, or you could write it as an ordered pair. You could write it as 8, 0. So either way will work. And then it asks for the y-intercept. So again, for the y-intercept, you're going to just set x equal to 0, because a y-intercept, here's the y-axis, is on the y-axis. And so when we go over, if we're on the y-axis, we're not going to go over any spaces. So I go ahead and set x equal to 0, and I'm left with negative 4y equals 4. So I just solve by dividing by negative 4, so y equals negative 1. So you could just write as negative 1, or you could write as the ordered pair. Just make sure you get it in the right spot, 0, negative 1. So same sort of thing on this next one. We've got to find the x-intercept. So for the x-intercept, I'm just going to cancel out the y term, so I'm left with 0 equals 2x plus 6. So I just have two steps. Subtract the 6 from both sides, so I'm left with negative 6 equals 2x, and then divide by the 2, and that gives me negative 3 equals x. So my x-intercept is negative 3. So I'll go ahead box my answers here. So negative 3, and the y-intercept, well, that's when we're going to set x equal to 0. So we're left with just y equals 6. And so there we have it. So the next one wants us to graph, and we'll just graph using these intercepts, since that's a good method for this one. So when I solve this one, I'm going to go ahead and do 2x equals 12 for the x-intercept. The y-intercept, I'm just going to cancel out the x value and solve for y. So I'm dividing by 2 here, so x is 6. So go over 6 spaces on the x-axis, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then over here I have to divide by 3, so y is 4. So up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Once you've got those 2 points, you can just draw the line between them. And we've got our answer. Well, looking at the next one, I'm going to do the same method here. So I'm going to set y equal to 0, and when I do that, I'm left with my x value. X is negative 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I do the same thing, but set x equal to 0, negative 3y equals negative 6. So you just divide by the negative 3, and that's how I'm getting 2 for y. So up 2 spaces, and once I have that, I can draw the line between the points. Arrows at both ends signifying the line goes on forever. Well, let's take a look at the last 3 problems. More graphing. And when I look at this first one here, it says to graph using, and then it doesn't specify the method, but I'm just going to use x and y intercepts. So x plus 3 equals 0. I've set y equal to 0, so I have one step there. I've got to subtract the 3 from both sides. I'm left with x equals negative 3. So I'll go ahead and plot that point. 3 spaces to the left. And moving on to my next one, I have set x equal to 0. I'm left with 3 equals 6y. So I'm dividing by 6, and that gets me a fraction. 1/2 equals y. So make sure you don't put 2. It's 1/2. So when I plot that point, I'm just going up a half a space. So it's right there in between 0 and 1, and then I can draw the line between those points. And taking a look at our next one, I go ahead and set the y equal to 0. I'm left with 2 equals the opposite of x. So I still have to get rid of that negative sign, so I'm going to divide by negative 1. And that leaves me with my answer of negative 2 equals x. So I go 2 to the left, put the dot, and then I do the same thing for the next one. So I've got 2 plus y equals 0. So I just have to subtract that 2, and we get our answer that way. So y is negative 2. So 2 spaces down, put the dot, and draw the line between those points. Well, the last one has some fractions. Let's see what I do there. So 1/2 x equals, or actually not equals, let's put a minus 2. Minus 2 equals 0. So I set y equal to 0. And when I solve this, I've got 2 steps here. I first need to move the 2 over. So I need to add the 2 to both sides. And once I do that, I'm still left with this 1/2 x equals 2. So now I'm going to multiply by that reciprocal. So multiply both sides by 2 over 1. And those will cancel out the fraction in front of the variable, the coefficient there, leaving me with x at 4. So I go 4 spaces to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4. Put a dot, and then do the next. So now I'm setting x equal to 0. So I've got negative 2 equals 1/3 y. And so to solve this, I do multiplication of 3. So do the same thing on this side. So I've got negative 6 equals y. So I go down 6 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, put a dot, and then just draw the line between those points. And that's what we get. So those are the answers to the practice test for Advanced Algebra Test 6, Quarter 1. Good luck.